You're such an asshole.
AssholeConsulting.com, banging out the videos left and right here so that I can get to that point where there's no videos left, there's no requests left, and they'll be done. Like another one will come in 20 minutes, and then I'm behind the 8 ball again. Hi there, Cappy. I appreciate it if you kept me anonymous. Okay, well, I'm an 18-year-old male living with my parents in England. After finishing school and going to work for my dad at his local construction project, I'm now exploring the possibilities of what my next move should be. My dad plans to move back into the oil industry as an independent contractor, say hello to the Scottish Forest, as soon as the project is finished and the price of oil goes up. The construction work is just a one-time deal. Research has led me to your channel. I'm now taking an online diploma course in C#. Is that what the number sign means? Research in computer programming, and am going to be interviewed for a welding course at my local college. My real concern is with my really bad case of dyslexia. Over the last few days, I have regained some old reports regarding a series of IQ and dyslexic screening tests, WAIS tests, which I took in my final year of school. To spare you the extra reading, I'll give you a quick summary of the data found on this test. Verbal comprehension 112, perceptual reasoning 82, working memory index 83, processing speed 74, full scale intelligence quotient 87. Well, that is quite some, and now I'm no expert in the subcategories of these scores, but the way you're writing, your verbal comprehension, obviously you write well. You would not strike me as someone with an IQ of 87. And whereas I'm sure this is the test. Okay, it's the test. But how you interact with society and how you perform, how you function is considerably higher. I know people don't like the online IQ tests, but I would still recommend you take that Queendom IQ test, because here's the thing, what is the standard? And a lot of people say, well, that's not a professional. It's like the old media, like they're saying, well, blogs that's PJ media. Blogs aren't real media. It's like, yeah, they are becoming the new standard. They're becoming the new media. So whereas I understand people do not like, for legitimate reasons, they have genuine reservations about like Queendom or any of these other online IQ tests, why don't you take that? Because it's becoming increasingly the more cited one, the more used one, and if I recall correctly, it's people that take it online, and that serves as the database. So going back to the 90s, I think this thing's been around. They have a lot of data, and you may have your reservations about it, but at least it's a metric. It may not equivalent, it may not equate or be comparable to a professionally administered IQ test. But if you take it, you might get, it's a separate metric closely related that might provide a little bit more, because so many more people have taken it that it may speak more accurately to how intelligent you are as you interact and function within the rest of society. Whereas you take these tests with Dr. Fraser Crane in the Poindexter world, I mean, they're professionally administered, I understand. There may be, that may not measure your actual capacity, if that makes any sense. All right, anyway. The report goes on to explain that only 0.6% of young people taking this test are expected to show this much of a discrepancy between the verbal comprehension index and the PSI, perceptual reasoning index. Reading the full report over was one part sobering, another part depressing. When people meet me in person, they often comment on how outwardly confident I appear. However, I'm asked to read out loud or write my ideas down under time restrictions. It becomes obvious that beneath that external veneer of competence lies a literacy skill of a 10-year-old. Or you just don't perform well under pressure. You just don't test well. I'm not looking to give you excuses, but I'm trying to come up with every reason as to why I have a hard time believing you're writing this well, you're this logical in your unless this took you 8 hours to write, that your brain does not function in other capacities and regards. That's where if someone said, bet $50, then I say, I don't think he tests well. I could be wrong. Needless to say, since reading this report, I feel pretty dumb. You're as smart as you're going to be. This is not under your control. So don't feel dumb or feel smart. That has nothing to do with it. Like, it's not like, boy, I feel pretty short. Well, no, I am short. I didn't have any outcome. It wasn't like I'm like, well, I try to get 6'3", but I just suck at being tall. No, I am what I am. I'm 5'8". So it's the same thing. Your IQ will be what it is. And I am worried about what skills, if any, will be available to cultivate in order to fulfill my ultimate wealth goal of financial independence, ideally through my own service-based business. Learning any skill is an extremely slow process for me, which can only be achieved through hours of practice and repetition, whilst everyone else seems to breeze through. What type of career/skills should I think of avoiding and pursuing, bearing in mind my obvious limitations? Is there any advice you could give low IQ people in general, and what advice would you give regarding my score specifically? Well, low IQ, okay, the low IQ, so you're a weird low IQ guy. Your standard low IQ person is just low IQ. They lack the mental capacity to do higher level order, higher complexity things. And so for low IQ people, it's, don't have kids you can't afford, don't go into debt, don't buy shit you don't. I mean, it's the exact same advice I give high IQ people, but it's really important in the case of low IQ people because they lack the mental ability to go out and make a shit ton of money to get out of the financial situations and fuck-ups they're likely to put themselves in when they're not wise, when they're young, which is not the same as intelligence. Then for you specifically, let me read the rest of it. I really just think the answer is to work harder and longer than everyone else, hoping that hard work, patience, and honesty pays off. I appreciate your time. Just pushes the book. Okay. Then we wrote something else. My basic math, I asked you about your math and ability and that. You said, my basic math, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, all perfectly fine. Haven't done algebra since the end of my secondary school education at the age of 15, so I'm a little out of practice. I don't remember having any issues with algebra, and I could definitely pick it up back then with a little bit of self-study. As for calculus, I never studied it. Once I passed my foundational GCSE, I was no longer required to take the maths. After that, I wasted the rest of my time in state education taking subjects I could just drift along in. Example, history, psychology. Okay, well, see? Now, this just supports my theory that you're not trying and, I got the dyslexias, and I know, you were a lazy fuck. At least, let's admit this, you could also have a low IQ in these specific subsets. But on top of that, you're a lazy fuck back when you were 15, which we all were. So now we got to figure out, all right, is it a low IQ, or did you just not fucking try? Especially when your brain was developing, you didn't try, so you didn't exercise your brain, so maybe it's just a matter of trying hard, relearning some good study habits, and you can learn this shit. At the time, I didn't think furthering my maths was important. Short-sighted, I know. I've only been on the programming course for a little over a week, but I'm having no issue memorizing lines of code once I finish my initial process of typing out each new line of code repeatedly. That's pretty much my learning strategy. I sometimes don't understand the function of each line that I am writing, but hopefully that will change. Yeah, you've been in it for a week. I remember programming my website, and I know you fucking IT nerds, I know HTML is not real computer code. I'm just saying it has a logical structural sentence order. It wasn't like I immediately understood it, but there was a learning curve that dramatically increased exponentially. And so yeah, you're not gonna, give it a little bit more than a week. Yesterday I applied for a part-time 6-week web design and development course at my local college, which could offer some cool skills. I was also offered a place on that welding course earlier today. Okay. Ba-da-ba-da-ba, booty-booty-boo, beady-beady-bee. Alright, let me get that. Alright. People want advice I give to you regarding your score specifically. Alright. So here's what I'm going to recommend. As always, like I do with, I got the bipolars, I got the ADHDs, I have the dyslexias. We here at Asshole Consulting need to figure out, for your benefit, do you really have that, or were you misdiagnosed, or do you believe you have that and instead you're just a lazy fuck? In your case, you're not a lazy fuck because you're actually putting forth the effort. But I'm wondering if you weren't misdiagnosed and thrown into this because your schools needed a fucking budget for a school counselor therapist, and we had to go employ some 23-year-old masters in psychology ditz so that she'd have a job. Alright? So I would take that Queen of IQ test, and frankly, I'd put more faith into it. Alright? And find out. Then I would put forth your entire full effort, because whether you generally have a low IQ in these other subcategories or not, it's irrelevant. That is outside of your control. You need to practice stoicism and accept that that is what that is. But that doesn't change your overall grand strategy. Everybody's strategy, no matter who you are, what advantages, disadvantages, heights, shortness, fatness, skinniness, you should always try your best. Because if you try your best, that is going to result in the best outcome that you can possibly attain. If you say, woe is me, I have the, fill in your leftist excuse bullshit. I have the Asperger's, I have social anxiety, I have the bipolars, I am not white, I'm not male, I'm not straight, I'm not... Then government give me check, or why try? Now you have guaranteed your demise. You have guaranteed you will not do your best. So no matter what, put forth the full effort. Yes, if it takes you harder, to your study habits have to be more repetition. It's going to take you longer. It may take you an hour. That takes somebody half an hour to learn. You got to do that. That's fine. But what I would do going forward, in addition to taking your test through Queendom or another, reasonably legitimate online place, is I would keep testing different trades and fields that you may or may not be good at. All right. So, for example, you're going to take the welding course. That's great. I think that's a great idea. All right. And you'll find out rather quickly whether or not you are proficient at welding or not. You're taking the computer programming. You have the math skills, it seems like. If you didn't have trouble with algebra and all that, you're not having trouble with the computer programming, learning C#. You're going to go on and take the HTML class. That's great too. See if you can do that as well. Who was it? Was it Henry Ford? Somebody was Henry Ford illiterate? I think it was Henry Ford that was illiterate. Maybe the larger point is what you want to do is find the field that whatever your natural gifts are would allow you to excel in. And so, yeah, you may have a legitimate case of dyslexia. You may have legitimate spatial reasoning problems. All right? And maybe you won't be a good welder because you just can't see the problem. You may have problems with dyslexia, and all of a sudden you're finding out, even though you have a pretty good start to begin with, your code is getting all screwed up because you keep making innocent switch around mistakes and dyslexic mistakes. But keep trying and keep testing different fields to find out what it is that you're good at. It could be like, look, you write very well. Again, I have a hard time thinking you have an overall low IQ based on how you write, although the data you provided me indicates that you have a very high good verbal comprehension. Maybe it's becoming a writer. Maybe it's becoming a salesman. I mean, I typically recommend against majoring in marketing or advertising, and you don't even have to major, but, give it a shot. Maybe go become a car salesman. Go try and sell something. Maybe that's your gift, even though it typically is not most, become a realtor. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, but you may have that gift. You may have that thing where, just like your peers beforehand, you would be amazed, like, how could they just sail through it? You could be that sales guy where you just happen to sail through it. But it's going to require a lot of experimentation, a lot of trial and error, and a lot of effort on your part. You can't just dip your toe in it like, anyway. You're going to have to learn it. You have to learn about, what's this Mini Cooper? Oh, all the amenities. And you're going to have to learn that inside out. You're going to have to give it a good, honest go in each field you try. But then it should become pretty apparent, especially based on your interests, what you'd like, but then what you'd also be proficient at. So it's going to suck for you. You just got to put a little bit more time and effort into it. But at first, let's diagnose and find out for sure if it really is like you got a mental impairment when it comes to spatial reasoning, memory, and stuff like that. Because a full IQ of 87, but you're pushing being mentally retarded. 80 is mentally retarded, and you're obviously not. So I'm wondering if the metrics and tools they use to measure this might be a little bit off. But assuming that you might have some deficiencies or disadvantages in certain aspects of intelligence, again, that doesn't change your general strategy. You're still going to have to try your best, but go and find what it is that you are good at, which I can't tell you. I wish I could just, Vulcan mind melt and, go run for politics. Tell Marisa May I said hello. Fuck Sturgeon. So, anyway, hope that helped out. I wish I had a more literal solution that was a little bit easier, but I don't. And if you guys want literal solutions that are not easy and are not quick fix-arounds, and may or may not work, go to assholeconsulting.com. We're at minimum, we'll tell you the truth. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.